Most definitely. Look, this is a really exciting time to be here. Some of these beings, they merely just have to think and they're here, because time-space does not exist to them once you get to those dimensional levels of existence. Some beings, though, are still in three-dimensional form and fourth and fifth dimensional form. That's why we have solid UFOs and we have light ships. There's difference. Some are three-dimensional, some are fifth-dimensional means of transport. So the more the light ships, for instance, they need to travel at the speed of light, and the other ships, they use different physics to get here. So some of the beings who have a vested interest in what's happening on the planet or is about to happen, this is a really exciting time to be here. Okay, this is a very exciting time, not because of what's going to happen to the planet per se, because that happens fairly regularly, it's no big deal. But what is a big deal is the shift of consciousness that's happening. That's really interesting to watch. And they want to make sure that this human consciousness, which has been a byproduct of this hybridization, okay, the consciousness that you and I have is a hybridized form. So it's created something quite extraordinary and new. Emotions. Emotions that can generate music, can generate literature, can generate art. This is new. This is why the human race is something quite extraordinary, because there's the detrimental aspects of emotions, but there's also this other amazing stuff. So they want to come through it because this is exciting, but they want to be careful that they don't allow a virus in that can affect all of these other things. So there's very much a possibility that the human race will be admitted to the next dimensional level, but with conditions, like a quarantine parole period, to see whether, you know, it's like border control. Well, that's what everyone's caught up with. They've got caught up with this idea that we have to ascend to fifth dimension. And the perspective is to understand you're all dimensions. Because if you're oneness, there is only one spectrum and it's all connected. But it depends on where you choose to view it from. Now, people who are choosing to think that they're this drop of water separated from the ocean will then think they have to make a journey back to the ocean, not understanding that they have all of the contents of the ocean in them. You know, I can say to someone, okay, they're giving me an image. Let's say we've got the ocean and the ocean is God, which is all dimensions. And then I take a massive bathtub load of water out of it. And I go, okay, that's seventh dimension. And then I take a small bucket, and I take a bucket out of the tub, and I go, okay, there's fifth dimension. And then I take an eyedropper, and I take a drop of water out of the bucket, or out of the cup, and I go, okay, there's third dimension. So they're all part of the one, but it all degrees on where your perspective of separation is. So fifth dimension, you can't ascend to the fifth dimension because you already are fifth dimension. You're already seventh dimension. You're already 10th dimension. You can be whatever dimension you think to create. You can create 1 billion dimensions if you want. And they all exist if you create them, because that's what Source is doing. Just pure thought. So it creates, you know, fractals? How you just keep going in and keep going in and keep going in and keep going in, and they just keep repeating over and over and over and over and over and over again. It's not bad at all, it's essential. Because it's the very first thing that Source did. Is it separated from itself to create the absence of itself, so it had a mirror and a duality. It's the absolute essential mirror, separation. But it doesn't mean you have to stay there. It just means at the maximum point of separation, you have the maximum amount of conflict. Therefore, you have the greatest scope for experience. Separation is neither bad nor good. But the function of separation is to give you the maximum experience of not being connected to love. See, if you say to Source, I want to be rich, Source says, okay, I'll make you poor first. Because you need to know what it's like to be poor before you can appreciate what rich is. Oh, I need to know what it is to be healthy. Okay, well, we need to make you unhealthy first so that you have a contrast. Because if you don't have a contrast, you have nothing to compare it to. You don't know what healthy is. You don't know what happy is. You don't know any of these things until you've had the contrast. Well, the more separation you create, the greater appreciation you have for what it is to be totally in oneness. But it's that separation that creates all of the scale of level of experience. It's just an enrichment. So when people are totally separated, they're at the maximum level of conflict, maximum level of fear, maximum level of experience. They'll get sick of it eventually, which is exactly what happens to people. They get sick of it and bored with it, and they want to come back to be happy. I don't want separation. I want us all to be one. I want to do, because they're now bored with that. But because now they can have a full appreciation of this. There is no evolution. Probably, if you're going to use a word close to that, it's devolution, because you devolve down to the third dimension, to experience. It's like a yo-yo, down and then back up again. And then on the way back up, you absorb all the experience and you plug it into the computer. So it all gets fed back up in again. From the consciousness perspective, look, we don't evolve. Evolution implies linear time. Okay? And there is no linear time. Everything is simultaneous. And if everything is simultaneous, there can be no evolution. Does that make sense? Okay? Everything just is. This moment is only connected to the moment that just passed because you choose to perceive it is. If I shoot a film 24 frames a second, okay, this frame is only connected to the one that follows it because they've been put in a line. If I chop them all up individually and put them in the can, every single frame is there. Independent. They're not connected at all. It's only if you choose to connect them that you can get a film. But let's say I randomly put all of those images back together and I play them through the film. Every single image is still there, but now they're random. And now it doesn't seem to make any sense. Doesn't seem to make any sense unless you have a higher perspective that can see that all of those frames are independent. Ego has an important function in our third dimensional existence, and it's to process the moment. Without an ego, we don't know that red is red, we don't know that hot is cold, we don't know what emotions we're feeling. We need an ego to be able to process those experiences. But the ego is only meant to process the present. It's not to then start going into the past and taking events that are not related, that frame is not related to any other frames. So the ego is not supposed to go back and say, oh look, this happened before, therefore I'm going to project it forward that will happen again. Because the minute the ego starts getting out of the present moment and starts to get into linearity, it starts to get caught up in fear. So what we have to say to our ego is that we have this really important role. You have an amazing role. You have to be so focused in the present that I can become totally aware of everything that's going on around me. And when you do that, I can make the most amazing films. And the ego goes, really? Really? And now it feels empowered because it knows what its job is, and it knows if it deviates from that, it affects the function. It stops me from operating at my maximum. So all of these people that talk about suppressing their ego and eliminating their ego, the ego just fights. Says, no, I've got a job to do, I've got a job to do, and it won't go away. So now they're in battle with their own ego. Your higher self creates this ego as your processor so that you can comprehend the experiences you're having. It's like the filter and the absorber all at once. It's sort of there, it's really important. But if you allow it to do more beyond that, now it's going to start pulling you into fear-based linearities. Whereas if you can stay totally in the moment, allowing your ego to fulfill its function of absorbing everything, every sound, every light experience, then you can stay at your fifth level of awareness or more all the time because you're not being run by fear. And then the Dracos agenda just doesn't run through you. Well, the greatest thing to do is acknowledge that your higher self has actually chosen to be a part of this, to experience this, to experience the fear, and then to get through the fear. You can't confront a fear by pushing it under the carpet and hoping it'll go away. You know, your fears are like a pack of hungry wolves. Eventually they're going to hunt you down and rip you to shreds. But if you stand up and you start running at that pack of wolves, they bolt because they're so scared that you're running at them. It's like a lion. If you run away from a lion, it's going to instinctively chase you. But if you run towards a lion, it backs off because it feels threatened. And that's what your fears are like. They're there for you to experience this. So by all means, go through, be terrified, horrified. It couldn't possibly be true. Denial, denial, fear, fear, fear. And then get through it and start to see the exciting aspect of it. Don't be attached to all the materialist things that are going on. Let go of them. Sell your house. Sell your property. You've got a month to do it. If you can, do it. And don't try to get market value for it. Don't be greedy. Sell it for a bargain. And you'll get a 1-week settlement. And then you can use that money to prepare if you want to prepare to be a part of the future. Because there are some people who will be a part of the future. A lot of people said, well, what's the point? If we're all going to die, what's the point? Well, the point is we're not all going to die. The point is some of us are going to survive with an awakened level of consciousness and be the beginnings of an extraordinary time on this planet. Well, I want to be part of that. That sounds amazing. The most important preparation for people to make is in their heart, which means they have to get out of their head, because your head will just propagate fears. So you have to get out of your head and get into your heart and allow your heart to be the ruler and say to the head, what do I need to do to prepare? It's not the head saying, what do I need to do, and the heart having to adjust. You go into your heart, a state of being, a state of love, and you say, right, I know what I'm here to do, I know what I'm meant to be, da-da-da-da-da. What do I need to do physically to prepare for that? And it will tell you to find somewhere safe, to plan ahead, you might find a support group, a survival group, etc., who are all like-minded. So the most important thing is to let go of all attachments, because all attachments are based in fear. Oh, I'm fearful I'm going to lose my car. I'm fearful I'm going to lose my job. I'm fearful I'm going to lose my partner. So we're attached emotionally to these things, and we have to just let it all go and just be in our heart, be in a state of love, and then follow our own guidance. And some people will be told that they need to prepare. But not to prepare out of fear of what's going to happen, but to prepare for what happens after these events. There are the higher dimensional aspects and beings who are going to be there to guide us through. That's if you are of human consciousness. See, the star racers who are here will just go back to their dimensional consciousness. That's why so many of the light workers think nothing's going to happen, it's just going to be a smooth transition. Well, it will be for them. They'll just leave their body. But the human consciousnesses won't. And that's why I say to people, just go in, just make a decision. Have you come here from a star system? Have you all your life been connected to some sort of star race, whatever it may be, and always felt that you came from the stars and you're here for a reason, and you've been doing the sort of work to help people? Or do you feel that that's something that you're aspiring to do, that you're wanting to leave the earth, that you feel like you've achieved everything you need to do here and you're ready to embark on a journey beyond that? Because you'll be one or the other. No one is better than the other. This is the great thing. In the eyes of Source, no one is better than anyone else. Everyone plays their part in a film. You're a filmmaker. You know the person who holds the sound is just as important as the person who runs the camera. It's just as important as the director. It's just as important as the extra in the background drinking a cup of coffee. We all have different responsibilities, but we are all integral into the success of that film. And if one of us doesn't play our part right, the film is incomplete or doesn't function properly. And that's how Source sees everything. No ego.